everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Austin Parker, and this is going to be my true cost of higher education speech. So my topic is higher education debt is widespread and still gradually increasing. I'd like to explain the increasing cost of higher education and ultimately show that it is still increasing. Also, I would like to show that there are ways to ease the cost and get around unnecessary educational costs. The tuition and fees associated with higher education has more than doubled since the 1970s until current time. The average debt per student at a graduation ceremony is $27,500. That is ridiculous because that is the amount that many people make in 1 year, if not 2 years, after taxes, and that is for a single year of school. Today I would like to talk to you a little about the cost of higher education in America and how it has increased over the recent years. I would then like to show why the cost of higher education is inflated and so high, and finally I will explain ways around some of the costs and show how the price will continue rising. The cost of college in state and out of state across the country has gradually increased. For my first main point, I would like to talk about the actual cost of higher education and show the increases over recent years. So the average tuition and fees for a public four-year college has increased 31% from just the 2002 to 2007 school years. 31% increase over 5 years is absurd. That is a very significant increase, and if it continues as so, then you will see ridiculous fees. The tuition and fees were already $29,056 last year, another 4% jump, while room and board ran to $10,462. After grants and scholarships, the average student paid $23,840 to attend schools such as Stanford. The tuition at private schools was up 13% beyond overall inflation over the past 5 years, adjusted for inflation. Tuition for students attending public four-year schools in their state was an average of $8,655 last year, a 5% jump from the previous year. So as you can see, everything's climbing from the previous year. The cost of private and public colleges and universities are unreasonably inflated. For my second main point, I'd like to expose the expenses of some universities and explain why the cost is not worth it in many cases. Williams College charges $41,434, or an inflation-adjusted 3.2 times what it did 30 years ago. So Williams College is now charging 3.2 times what it did 30 years ago. So just 30 years ago, you would have paid a third of what you pay now for relatively the same education. The University of Southern California's current tab of $41,022 is 3.6 times its bill in 1980. So that's an even larger increase. Colleges aren't spending their extra revenues, which we calculate to be about $40 billion a year nationally over 1980 revenues, in ways that most benefit students. One thing colleges are spending more on is athletic teams, which have become a more pronounced and costly presence on campuses everywhere. Even volleyball teams travel extensively these days, with paid coaches and customized uniforms. Currently, 629 schools have football teams, which is 132 more than in 1980. And all but 14 of them lose money, including some with national names. This was probably one of the most shocking statistics to me, was that there's 629 schools that have football teams, higher education schools that have football teams, and all but 14 of them lose money. So all this money from the school that everyone's paying to go there is being flooded into the athletics, mainly the football team, as well as others, and all but 14 of these football teams are losing money as opposed to making. The average football squad has gone from 82 to 102 players. This is an increase of obviously 20 players, and it's due to subspecialties required by esoteric coaching strategies. In other words, we have trainers now We have extra players, three third string players, things like this. The number of women's sports teams has also risen sharply. Since 1980, for example, the number of women's soccer programs has soared from 80, 20 less than 100, 80, 80 to 956. So from just under 100 to just under 1,000 since 1980. Women's soccer programs. Is this a good thing? Of course. Women playing soccer, not a problem. But the amount of money that's going into it is is contributing much to the tuition cost. This right here is shocking. Varsity golf at Duke, open to both genders, cost an estimated $20,405 per year per player. So 20 grand, over 20,000 per player per year to play on the golf team. Because there are no revenues for most sports, the deficits often have to be covered by tuition bills. So one player is costing over $20,000 per year. I think that is just shocking. Since 1980, the number of administrators per student at colleges has about doubled. So administrators at universities is significantly increasing. On most campuses, their numbers now match the number of faculty. So administrators and faculty are now equivalent. Is this necessary? Who knows? I don't think so. In theory, all this extra tuition money should permit the hiring of more junior faculty, which might mean smaller introductory courses. But on many campuses, huge classes remain the norm. So in other words, if you're paying all this extra money, you should the core education, the introductory courses, the education that majority of the students are taking part of should be bettered, should be better because you're paying more. So not things that sports that not everyone plays, things like that. They should not be bettered by this money. Um, there can be ways to avoid some of this debt due to higher education cost, as it is only going to continue to rise. For my final main point, I will explain ways around the inflated cost of colleges and universities, public or private. One of the easiest and best ways to start on the right track to saving money while still getting a college education is to graduate on time. Um, the extra cost for failed classes, room and board, extra books, retaking classes, etc., are expensive to add on to your already expensive 4 years. You don't want a fifth year because that's just more money. Graduating on time takes being attentive to all your classes each semester and planning your schedule to fulfill all requirements on time. So meet with your advisors, do what you got to do to make sure that you graduate on time. Attendance is important to make sure you pass all your classes on time. If you fail a class, you're going to have to retake it, and that sets back your whole schedule. Then you won't graduate on time, which means more money. Get as many scholarships or low interest loans as you can. That seems pretty obvious, but many students don't take time to apply for scholarships because they are busy at their 8, 9, 10, 11, $12 paying jobs. But it's more important to take the time to apply for them because of the future payoff. Although you may be working to live comfortably right now, which obviously is important, um, if you take the time to apply for these, when you're out of school, you won't have as many loans. So it really is worth applying for scholarships and such. Excuse me. Figure the cost of each meal based on the cost of your meal plan for the semester. So this isn't really a big deal for us at Quinsigamond because we either bring food, eat at home. We don't have a meal plan. At other schools and universities, they have a meal plan where, they have swipes for each time they take a meal. So what this is saying is figure out the cost. If you have, 500 meals for blank amount of, you pay blank amount for your meal plan, then figure the cost for each meal individually. So when you go in and have a meal, you understand how much you're spending, as opposed to just kind of swiping it like it's not even real money. Um, Higher education is important, but gradually becoming more and more unfairly priced and a debt magnet. The cost will continue to rise, and you need to avoid wasting money as much as you can, namely by these strategies I just named. So We have discussed a lot about higher education and its inflated cost for sports and other purposes that don't directly improve every student's educational experience. I explained how the cost has increased, and I showed it is spent unreasonably in ways to get around some of the debt for the cost. Um, I hope that you understood everything I said. I hope that you um, took something out of the cost of higher education and understand some ways to get around the cost of higher education.